Hello, everybody, and welcome to Caring Conversations. Today is episode 7. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I really can't. It's crazy how far we've come.
Number 7, I know.
From our first recording to today. Improvement? I don't know, but getting there.
Call it improvement. I'm going to call it improvement. Yeah. Because
I feel better about it.
So welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us today. We are going to be talking about how to start your career as a caregiver. We've got an amazing human being and a phenomenal HR manager here. Her name is Heather Connor. She's with Ohana Care. She's going to help talk us through tips from her on how to start your career in caregiving and home care. She's going to give
what makes Heather's tactics different, because that's important, right? Because it's really hard to hire in healthcare these days. So what are her tactics?
Yeah, and what's she looking for? You're going to speak to all of that, Heather. I know you have a vast knowledge of the whole thing, and frankly, if you weren't here, we wouldn't be able to function. So thank you so much from the bottom of our heart, and we're happy to dig in to see how you can help guide future caregivers down the road.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to highlight that growing demand of healthcare professionals and the impact that it has on getting that right person in for our families. So can you tell us a little bit about, what you look for when you're starting out in hunting for the right person for the right role?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is definitely looking at what role you're looking for. There's different categories of caregivers, whether the client that we're looking for is looking for a companion, healthcare aide, if they're looking for nursing care, that's kind of starting ground. And then the biggest thing is we want to look for people that have the same values as our company. We obviously highly value the compassionate care for our clients. So we want to look for people that have those same compassionate views, are able to offer that compassionate care for our clients, meet the client's needs. If a client has specific needs that they have, such as dementia care, looking for someone that has experience with dementia care or has completed any dementia-specific training, things like that are really important.
Yeah, that's right. So how does a companion differ, based on, and we've got the HCAs or registered, there's so many different names for it, CHWs, community health workers, community support workers. And then you have companions. So what's the difference there? What are you looking for in a companion versus an HCA?
Yeah, one of the biggest difference is a healthcare aide does provide a lot of personal care, whereas companions aren't involved in personal care. So a lot of the time for companions, it's things like late housekeeping, meal preparation, assisting clients on going to outings, going to recreational activities, appointments, things like that. Whereas a healthcare aide, there's a lot of personal care involved, that hands-on care. So that's one of the big differences. Companions don't have to have any specific educational requirements to be a companion caregiver, whereas healthcare aides need to have completed a healthcare aide or equivalent program. And then there's different licensing bodies in different areas. So for Alberta, we look at caregivers that are registered with the Alberta Healthcare Aid Directory. For BC, we look at caregivers that are registered with the BC Care Aid. And same with LPNs and RNs. LPNs, we look at caregivers that are either registered with CLPNA here in Alberta or the BCCNM for BC. It's the same licensing body for the RNs and LPNs for BC, and then CARNA for RNs in Alberta.
Excellent. Heather, I think you touched on a really good point. Like, it's very dependent on what the client needs. Because I think, in Liz and I's job, it's important for us to be able to predict in the future what their care needs may be so that we can not have to change up the caregivers or the companions as their needs change. And I think, that takes a little bit of magic, but I think most of us are able to, Liz and I are able to kind of anticipate what those needs would be, which means that as a client continues to increase their care needs or even decrease their care needs, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to change out the care team. And so I think understanding the difference between companion, healthcare aide, LPN, licensed practical nurse, registered nurse, and what the scope of practice is really important for people as well. I think a lot of people want a nurse, because that's a common common thing in healthcare. We look to nurses, but I really encourage my clients to think more of like, what are the needs? And can they be met with the most economical and qualified still caregiver? And most of the time, that's not a nurse, surprisingly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is something on a resume that you'll see come across your desk? What's something that you think, oh, that's, you know what, that's an education that we need to snap up for Ohana Care for us to bring on board? Is there something that triggers you when you see it to follow up immediately with a caregiver or potential caregiver?
Yeah, I mean, there's oftentimes like keywords, like things like dementia care, or oftentimes we have clients with very complex care needs, such as clients with Parkinson's, ALS, things like that. And so whenever I see things like that as experience listed on a resume, that's obviously something that caregiver wants to highlight. That's a skill, that an achievement that they're really proud of to be able to offer. So those kind of keywords are really, really important and things that I often look for, just that we are able to provide the best care for our clients. At the end of the day, we do try to provide the best care available, and we really focus on finding who is the right caregiver for each individual client. So that's...
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for personality match, especially in the home care industry. In nursing, you know, it's skill-based, primarily skill-based. You know, you hope the person isn't a horrible character, obviously. But as far as having, you know, it's more about the match between the two individuals as well as their capability and their training, because they are, you know, they grow to be part of the family often. So finding that, you know, the right mix of sense of humor, or, you know, and definitely their capacity, capability, availability is also another big part of it. You know, there's so many different pieces to consider when we are hiring into a role specific to a person and an individual.
Like finding the right puzzle piece in a puzzle.
Yeah.
Finding the right person for that client.
Yeah. It may change, right? Like we may have a discussion, as we do every morning, about all of our new clients or anticipated clients. You know, we chat as a group about like who we think would be a good fit based on what each of us knows about each of the caregivers or the clients. And it's very much a collaborative effort. But you know, as humble as we need to be, sometimes we get it right and sometimes we don't. Like I like to say most of the time, you know, we do pretty well in matching our clients and caregivers, but sometimes we don't. And I really pride myself, and I'm proud of our team for being flexible in that, because if it doesn't work once, you know, we can change it up. And that's a really valuable function of what we have created in our team, is that we can mix it up until we find that right match. So, yeah.
That feeds into the whole aspect of private, you know, hiring a private person that you don't know, that you can't really do a good job vetting, versus the type of care that we can offer, or, you know, an alternative company offers. So focusing on, you know, when you're calling a company, do you ask them questions like, do you have vulnerable sector police checks? Do you have first aid and CPR? Are they food safe? Is there, you know, any clear driver's abstracts, insurance, liability, all of those things that sets a business, a company apart from a private caregiver? I think there's something to be said for that. And I know that, Heather, you highlight that as part of your onboarding process, is that, you know, when you're coming on with us, it's not just an individual, you know, if it's a team. So if it isn't a good fit with a private person, it's a lot more difficult to find somebody new, or even to feel, you know, confident enough to remove them from that role. So working with a company like us, we have alternative caregivers handy. We have people that are just as skilled and capable, and we can honor the fact that, you know what, not everybody gets along with everybody. Especially, I want to say, in this political climate, but, you know, we don't get along with everybody. That's just the way that human beings are. So knowing that there's alternatives there that we've vetted, and we have all their documents up to date on file, and they've gone through the interviewing process and the intake process and all of that. It's a really important part of what is being provided by us.
Heather, what is your process that maybe sets Ohana Care and you apart? What does that process look like for you when you do recruit and make the decision to onboard someone? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into deciding on a candidate to move forward with, whether their availability matches what we're looking for, if they have certain skill sets that match something that we're looking for. It's no limit to the things that you have to look at when determining a candidate to move forward with. And a big thing is just like a variety of skill sets helps. We often look at different levels of care, different skill sets that clients or caregivers have, different education they've obtained, and the experience. So if someone has lots of experience working in home care with a diverse group of clientele, it's not just limited. That can be really beneficial and make them stand out, that they're not just limited to one type of clientele. They're willing to have experience with a vast majority of different clients. All of our clients have such different care needs, and we focus on catering to each of those different care needs. So just different things that caregivers have experience in is one of the key things that I tend to look for. And just looking for the compassionate caregivers that are willing to put in the work for their clients.
Mm-hmm. And I think Liz, I think work is a really good thing to touch on, because I think our process is a little bit not exhaustive, but I think it's a really involved onboarding process. Yes. And there's reason behind that, right? I think everyone would agree that we want someone who's going to be committed. And that actually means an investment from them at the forefront, not a financial investment necessarily, but a time investment, because we do ask a lot in that onboarding process. What does that onboarding process look like for you?
Yeah, it's a very extensive process, like you said. We ask for quite a lot during the onboarding, and there's a lot that caregivers need to come prepared with and provide to us. So we do provide or check very extensively on things like criminal record checks. So we do criminal record checks and vulnerable sector checks, because not a lot of companies do check for vulnerable sector checks nowadays, I know, but working in the vulnerable population, that is something that is very important to us. We want to make sure that we are protecting our clients at all times, as well as making sure that all of our caregivers, whether it's a healthcare aide, a licensed practical nurse, an RN, they have that their licensing up to date. And CPR, everything like that is really important to check. We oftentimes look for caregivers that can provide transportation to our clients. So looking for caregivers that can offer transportation, they're comfortable transporting clients in their vehicle, and they have the liability insurance that is required.
Yeah. Where do you see, home care and the providers moving to in the future? Because I know that technology is definitely integrated into your end of it. Do you see that moving into the caregiver side as well? Is that something that you would be looking for as a positive for them, or does that weigh at all?
It's definitely something to consider, especially as you said, like everything is always changing and healthcare is always growing, always changing, always expanding. So if someone is not really willing to continue to grow as technology grows with healthcare, then that kind of puts a hindrance. We use an online software for all of our scheduling needs. So caregivers that are able to use that software are willing to kind of even play around with software when they first get onboarded, just so they can understand how it works. That's really, really beneficial, because then it helps even speed up their onboarding process, and just being willing to continue to grow as technology grows and learn how to use the different technologies.
Yeah. So with hiring new people, are you seeing any changes in, because I saw a report, I'm just going to go a little off, stick with me here, saying that our Gen Z population values more of the work-life balance than previously. Are you seeing that cropping up in a lot of your folks that you're bringing on, or have you seen any changes in that sort of?
Absolutely. We definitely can see a difference in the different generations of that work-life balance. A lot of times as caregivers from like Gen Z that kind of more interested in maintaining that work-life balance, they will limit availability just to maintain that work-life balance. Whereas different generations often will, they just want to work. The time there's differences with their availability, just putting themselves for more shifts, things like that. But that is one of the nice things with home care is there is that flexibility for a work-life balance, and there's that flexibility in the casual positions for work-life balance while still being able to meet the needs of your clients.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful part about working in home care is that if you have flexibility in your schedule and you are upfront with us on that starting out, we can accommodate. Most of the time we can offer hours outside of what your normal run-of-the-mill 9 to 5 job would be.
So I totally agree, Heather. I think that work-life balance creeps up a little bit more, but I don't want that to deter someone, when we say it's exhaustive, when we say that flexibility is really important. I think people that are looking for a second job also may find that home care is a great option for us or for them, where they can only work once a week. And we might be able to find a client that's once a week client that, is maybe the client's more flexible based on whether we find the right companion for them or not. Well, they only need one visit a week. And we're looking for people like that too. So, I don't want people to feel like you have to have, this will be your full-time job and you have to commit everything to us. There's a lot of flexibility in what we offer as well. And that transparent, open communication. We encourage some of our caregivers to have a second job and maintain security because we don't have the security in our clientele necessarily to guarantee full-time work long-term. Some of our clients are palliative. Some of our clients may be moving into different care levels. So I think it's really important we appreciate the flexibility, but also if you are limited to your availability, we want to accommodate that for the right caregiver as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a two-way street. Flexibility goes ways. And again, it's all about communication. I like to think that we're not scary people. So just like let us know. Speaking for myself, yeah. I'm not scary, Melissa. But knowing that if they share with us, hey, I've picked up a new job, I work from Monday, Tuesday to Thursday, whatever it is. And then we just update their availability. And if they want to work and they're capable and willing and they want to pick up some extra hours, it's a, like you say, it's a great second job. It's a great primary job. But yeah, really, that flexibility does go both ways for us all. So communication is key in healthcare, as well as with Heather, of course. Creating schedules with poor Monica, our scheduler, he's phenomenal.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So between Heather and all of us, we've got it buttoned up pretty well as far as
it's an art for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So I guess in the flexibility, it's a good segue to talk about growth opportunities in home care. And do we support growth opportunities?
Absolutely.
Tell me.
Yeah, it's we are always happy to help support our caregivers with pursuing things like higher levels of education to advance their career. Even caregivers that are just starting out as an HCA, we can help support them with pursuing an LPN license. Or another great opportunity that just in recent years has come about is if you're in school to become an LPN or an RN, at least in Alberta, I know, you can get registered with the Alberta Healthcare Aid Directory if you've completed the first year of an LPN program and you've completed the practicums. Or if you've completed the second year of the RN program with the practicums, you can get registered with the Alberta HCA Directory. And then you can start working as a healthcare aide and get that hands-on experience, that real-world experience that will help you further down the line with your career. Oftentimes we'll have caregivers that will start out as companions that then pursue their HCA. And we're happy to help support our caregivers with pursuing that education and then gaining the experience that they need for that education.
Yeah, I love watching a companion go through the process to become an HCA. It's just, I love it. It's just such a family feeling when they actually graduate and they've got that piece of paper in their hands. I feel like a proud mama.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot of pride in it. Like not that we did anything really, but to be able to support them, whether it be like with a part-time job or, that allows them the flexibility to continue to go to school, or maybe it's a bursary. We have offered some funding for education to some of our caregivers, that have really showed commitment and loyalty to us. So, nothing's off the table if you're looking to, continue in this healthcare career. I love hearing about it.
And even things like our online education that we provide for our caregivers. We provide online education that's available at all times for our caregivers. And oftentimes they're very specified for different things like dementia care to help support our caregivers with providing the best care that they can for their clients and to advance their own education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That ongoing.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just about like I know we look specifically for like dementia care experience, but someone coming to us that doesn't have that experience also that's okay. Like we with the extensive plethora of education and experience that we all bring to the table can readily prepare someone for, a client with dementia and supporting them through the care planning and, the meet and greet process, all of that. I think it can be daunting maybe to take on a new client without previous experience. It can also be really exciting and potentially a very long-term client as well.
And I mean, you have to start somewhere to get that experience. So no matter what, it's always going to be scary starting a new venture, a new care that you have never done, but it's going to be a great experience to be able to learn how to do it.
And how do we support our team in the field? Like, I know, like we're always here, but what support do we provide our team once they're out in the field with their clients?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is we do have our 24/7 team available. So any member of our admin team takes on our 24/7 line and is available at all times to help support our clients and caregivers at any time of day for things that are just everyday things that aren't an emergent situation. Obviously, we ask that it's not messaged at 2 a.m. or something like that, but our team is happy to caregivers at 2 a.m. if they are in a situation that they're not sure what to do, they need some support. Any of our team members is happy to help really at any time of day for situations that they need help in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that support's so integral into making people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not used to going into a home, it can feel daunting. So that support at the start of your career and then, taking on a new client, that's so important to make people feel comfortable as well as the clients, not just our staff. But lines of communication always open 24/7. Yeah, reluctantly at some points, but always open. So anybody else have anything you want to add to the conversation?
I'd like to just touch on again, what is the benefit to hiring an agency versus, someone off of the street or Kijiji or whatever. We just touch on like why someone would opt to maybe choose a more expensive route, but what are the advantages of going that direction?
I mean, one of the big things is for someone just looking privately for care, you might not know all the things to be even looking for to make sure that you're finding the best care for your own loved one. Things like, are they licensed to be providing this care? Are they certified with CPR? Do they have a clear criminal record check? Whereas going through a company, that is all off of your hands and it's on the company, and you can trust that that company is checking crossing all the T's, dotting all their I's to check everything to make sure that the caregivers are fit to provide the level of care needed for their loved one.
I think it's important to ask the company that you're interviewing, when you are talking to them about your loved one, what's your vetting process? Because I know we're proud of our vetting process, and it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be one size fits all for all companies. It may be very much different for other companies. So asking those big questions like the liability insurance and how do you How do you vet your caregivers? How do we know this person is safe to come to the home? What if they're driving? All of those questions that are specific to that person, ask the questions. A company that's reputable is going to be able to give you the answers right away. They're not going to be, trying to circumvent the conversation. You want straightforward answers, and preparing that sort of a question sheet, because you're interviewing the company as well. So knowing that we've done our due diligence, or, whatever company it is that you're interviewing has done their due diligence to make sure that the staff member that's coming out has been vetted, there's insurance in place, et cetera, just to make sure everyone feels safe about it. And then hiring private, you're not getting sick coverage. So if there's an injury or an illness for the caregiver, you don't often have anybody backup. Hiring a company to be a backup is also something that we've experienced as well. So a private caregiver will be the primary, and when they're away on holiday, because you don't have somebody that has holiday pay, they will go away potentially at the drop of a hat. I know that people with like Cecil funding out in BC, they need support. These are people with very high needs, and they have to, as their mandate from the government, hire privately. So when their caregivers drop off the map, and sometimes that does happen, they need to get somebody that is reliable and supportive and capable to sort of jump in. And that's sometimes where we can be that punctuated assistance, is in the in-between, when sick calls, vacation, or someone is quit at the drop of a hat, or accidents, whatever it is. That's why it's nice to have a company like us either providing the primary support or providing support in the background ongoing.
And I mean, getting home is a scary thing at first for most people. You don't know what you're looking for. You don't even know where to start. It's a very daunting task to get care in for a loved one. So being able to find a company that you can kind of, okay, this is what I need. Can you help me? It can be a lot less daunting than having to do it all yourself.
And ensuring that your worker is protected too. I think that WCB, or in BC, that work safe is really important to have. It's very physical work that we do. We know that in healthcare, there are lots of injuries. We do our best to mitigate them, but it does happen. And so, being sure that the company that you're looking at carries those sorts of liability insurance, workers, coverage, injury coverage is really important as well. Because you hate to be in a position where, that becomes something that you have to deal with in your personal life. We don't want that.
Yeah. And then with that, we have, the musculoskeletal injury prevention training comes with our caregivers as well. So we're reducing any risk that they have, as well as providing that backup liability insurance that probably or may not be provided by a private caregiver. It's hard to vet everybody, sort of minutia of care, but we, Heather does it.
Yeah. Yeah. And having someone to go to if something does go wrong, like knowing that you have a team that's going to support you to kind of walk through an issue, whether it be, God forbid, a missing item or a car accident or a workplace injury, or even an anticipated vacation. It's really nice to know that you're not working necessarily just one-to-one with someone, but you have a team that's going to back you up and make sure that those care needs are still met.
Yeah, it's that safety net, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you want to be able to enjoy your time in Mexico and know that you're being cared for. I know. It's very topical, I guess. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask one more thing of Heather, if you don't mind. How do you ensure that you have the staff to support the growth that we're seeing and the demands that we're seeing in our clients? What do you do? How do you find the staff, and how are you constantly how do you do that? How do you put all those pieces of that puzzle together?
Yeah, it's definitely about finding like that fine line of, you want to have enough caregivers to be able to support the clients that you have and any clients that are coming on board, without having too many caregivers that they don't then have enough hours, and then they're not interested in picking up shifts with you anymore. It's a very, very fine line of having enough but not too many caregivers. Biggest things is just that open communication between our entire team. Thankfully, we do have very, very good communication with our whole team. And anytime there is any staffing concerns, or if we know that a big holiday is coming up, or Christmas time or summertime, where it's usually a tougher time for staffing, people are taking time off, just kind of anticipating those kind of needs, and reviewing applicants and looking for caregivers before something comes up that all of a sudden you're in a jam and you have nobody. So it's really that finding that fine line. And sometimes it's a lot more difficult. Sometimes it's smooth sailing. And with healthcare, especially and home care, it's every day is a different day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, the biggest thing is just that open communication with the team, of everyone knowing kind of what's going on, where we have any staffing concerns, and being able to plan ahead for those.
Yeah, I think that planning ahead piece is really important. Like, as I can't speak to your excellence and how you do it, but I know for me, like, projecting is really important. And I know as a collective, we decided on we need to be hiring a minimum of 5 caregivers a week. Like, that's our goal. That's what we want to meet. Tried and true-ish. It seems to work for us. Like, it just seems like there's that constant cycle of needing people, clients come and go, caregivers come and go. We want to be able to support people. And in doing that, I think we also are trying to keep people engaged, anticipating that in the future we will have, more needs and changes in schedules and things like that. So what does that engagement look like? How do you keep people on your roster interested?
Yeah, I do try and reach out, even myself personally, with as many caregivers, if not all of our caregivers, as possible. We send out things like, we try and do town halls with our staff, or if we're not available to do a town hall, we'll put together like a PowerPoint or a PDF just to send it to our caregivers, let them know we still know that they're with us. We are still looking for hours. We might have hours coming available. We'd love to have them working. Things like that. If there's any changes coming within the company, or things like if there's HCA renewal coming up, LPN renewal, keeping that constant communication with all of our caregivers is very important. Just making sure that they know that we still know that they're there. We haven't forgotten about them. And there's a lot of communication between all levels of our team with our caregivers, which is nice. It's not just our scheduling coordinator contacting them. It's not just one person. It doesn't matter who is on our admin team, whether it's Melissa, our general manager, Liz, care manager, our office manager, Jen. Everyone is in communication with our caregivers, and our caregivers know all of our admin team. So having that communication with our caregivers, I find, really makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, we're all known as Monica because she's our scheduling coordinator. Nobody wants to talk to anybody but Monica because she's the gatekeeper to all the hours. But I agree. I think getting to know each of our caregivers and appreciating that even though we don't have any hours, like, just reminding them that we are working hard. I think even through that process of, like, them staying in touch with us, or saying, like, look, I have this amount of time, I'm off of my other job, or I've taken vacation and I've got this. Again, it all comes back down to that communication piece and letting us know what their needs are. Because I think we get to know our caregivers sometimes on a really personal level as well, where they're dealing with something in their family life. And so we want to support them in that. But when they are ready to come back, we want them back. We've invested that time. They've invested that time into us. And so, we definitely want to bring them back. And flexibility and transparency, I think, are really huge for us.
Yeah. It's important for us that we treat our caregivers like people, not just like a number. A lot of the bigger companies, it's hard for caregivers to feel like they actually are a valued team member, whereas we really, really focus on valuing our caregivers, and we want to make sure that they know that we value them and everything that they do. Without our caregivers, we wouldn't be able to provide the care that we do for our clients. So they are our frontline people, they're who our clients see every day. So making sure that our clients, our caregivers, feel valued and feel like they're an important member of our team is super important.
Yeah, because they're loved by our clients. They truly become part of the family. And like, yeah, I mean, we don't see our clients half as much as they do. And I love that they are so important to each of our clients. Like, that's just such an amazing experience that we get to be a part of too.
I know. Yeah, it feels good to get that phone call. And you can get the phone call once a week or even a couple times a week where it's somebody that has a particular caregiver and they really just love them to bits. And they'll call and tell every single person on our team, you know what, how much I love this person. This is what they did for me today, or this is what they did for my dad today. Like that feedback, it really does go back into the reason why we're nurses, why we're in the healthcare industry, and being proud of the care that we're putting out there. Super selfish. I love it. It fills me with pride to be part of a team that can be so supportive to people that really truly need it, and families that are struggling, and creating that sort of safety net, that backbone to allowing these people to live this fulfilling life. And it's not, I mean, it feels like smoke and mirrors, just having somebody arrive at your door that is phenomenal and capable, but really Heather is there facilitating the creation of these amazing human beings and supporting them through it all as well. I mean, the whole team is.
Do you face any challenges when it comes to recruiting, or once we have recruited and we've onboarded caregivers? Like, are there any commonalities or trends that we're seeing as far as challenges?
That's a good one. I mean, sometimes we'll face challenges such as if a client, or sometimes caregivers take a bit to get onboarded, whereas sometimes a caregiver will be onboarded immediately, and trying to figure out where we can fit that caregiver in schedules, or if they've onboarded really fast and we don't have any hours available for them because the client we were looking for, if there was a very specific client, they're not ready for another week or two. We want to make sure that caregiver still feels engaged, and we want them to still be actively excited and ready for work, whether it's a week or 2 weeks away. So finding something for them in the meantime, or a caregiver that if they're not able to get onboarded as soon as we would expect, and then trying to then find other caregivers available for clients, just to at least make sure that we're able to meet those clients' needs without having any discrepancy in visits, things like that. Can sometimes cause a challenge when onboarding is just, and everyone works at different paces to get things onboarded. Things like vulnerable sector checks take quite a while, so sometimes there is unfortunately a delay in onboarding. So that can be one of the challenges.
If I may, I think another one of the challenges that we face, though technology is supremely valuable to us, sometimes technology is a hindrance.
Absolutely.
Do you want to touch on that?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With the changing technological use that is always growing, we do utilize technology for all of our onboarding, especially because we are in a lot of different areas. We're all throughout Alberta. We're in Vancouver. We're in Vancouver Island. We're often not able to have one of our admin team members able to meet with a caregiver in person to go over all of the onboarding. So we do rely heavily on technology for that. And sometimes that can definitely cause a barrier for onboarding. If a caregiver isn't as technologically savvy as someone else, it may take them a bit longer to onboard, but we always are able to find a different way, whether it's talking over the phone and helping them go through the onboarding, sending them a paper copy instead. We always find a way to mitigate that challenge.
Well, I mean, I have to thank you, Heather. You and I have been working together for some time now, and truly every day you bring talents to the table that I previously wasn't aware of. So you're definitely multifaceted. And I so appreciate your support. I truly believe that, through this process of us working together and all that you bring to the table, you've really changed um, how we do things to create some efficiencies and to really make it a place that you want to work. Like, I think that personal touch that you bring every single day and the reaching out to caregivers to keep them engaged is so valuable. It's valuable to me, but I know for a fact it's valuable to our caregivers as well. So I'm so thankful that you're a part of our team and, that you'll continue to be a part of our team forever.
Thank you.
Sign here, an initial here. You are now your record. Yeah.
Any final notes, Liz or Heather? I think this was really good. I mean, I always love talking about recruitment. So,
yeah, I mean, Heather, keep doing what you're doing, of course. Never leave. But it's something that people need to keep in mind when they are bringing on a company is how do I know that this is a reliable person? And we know because we have Heather. So hopefully, if you're out there looking, just know that it's more than just a phone call. There's a whole big team behind it to make sure that this is the right person for your loved one.
Well said.
And if anybody else has anything they want to add, we can say goodbye to everybody. So you can find us at ohanacare.ca. You can find Heather at indeed.ca. Search Ohana or jobs. She will happily take your resume if you are looking for any work in the Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver area, Greater Vancouver, and all across Vancouver Island as well. Come back next week. Next week, we're going to have an amazing new topic coming up. I know that we're talking about medical assistance in dying coming up. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to discuss. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below. Follow us, reach out,
subscribe.
Like and subscribe. That's the thing. You think 7 episodes in, I'd figure that one out.
All right, guys, take care. Lovely to chat with you again.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye.